Hello everyone, welcome to ClearIAS. In today's video, we'll be discussing about the relations between Russia and Ukraine. I'm Ujjwala Pulala, an educator at ClearIAS. History. Ukraine was previously a part of Russia from 1922 to 1991. Even if you go back to the medieval history, Russia and Ukraine were well connected. Both of these countries claimed their heritage to Kievan Rus, which was a East Slavic polity back then. Also, the capital of present-day Ukraine, Kiev, was also the capital of Kievan Rus. With the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, Ukraine attained independence. Ukraine officially became an independent country on 24th August 1991. So from this we can understand that Ukraine was previously a Soviet republic which gained independence after the collapse of Soviet Union in 1991. During the dissolution of USSR, Ukraine had the third largest atomic arsenal in the world. However, in exchange for security guarantees, Ukraine returned a large part of its stockpile to Russia. Since then, the relations between Russia and Ukraine have seen many ups and downs. Previous aggression by Russia. Ukraine slowly made attempts in building closer political and trade relations with the European Union. Even the public demand favored this tilt. In 2010, Yanukovych was elected as the president of Ukraine. Yanukovych was considered as being pro-Russia. Due to the intense pressure from Russia, he postponed the trade agreement with the European Union. This led to the Euromaidan or the Maidan protests in Ukraine, which ultimately led to the resignation by Yanukovych. Annexation of Crimea. Crimea is a peninsula in the Black Sea with strategic importance. It was a part of Ukraine till 2014. However, Russia always considered Crimea to be an historical region of Russia. In 2014, rallies were held in Crimea calling to secede from Ukraine and rejoin Russia. Later, a referendum was held in Ukraine where people voted in favor of joining Russia. According to the election officials, about 97% of the voters voted in favor of rejoining Russia and to secede from Ukraine. However, this referendum is considered to be illegal and highly rigged by the Western powers. One thing you need to remember here is, during the dissolution of USSR and the independence of Ukraine in 1991, majority of the people from Crimea voted in favor of the independence of Ukraine. So this is where Crimea is situated in relation to Ukraine and Russia. Russia considers this to be a liberation. However, Western powers consider this vote to be illegitimate. This was viewed by the Ukraine as military annexation of Crimea by Russia. However, now Crimea has become a part of Russia. Minsk Agreements. These are the two agreements signed between Russia and Ukraine to ease the tensions between them. The first agreement was signed in September 2014 and the second one was signed in March 2015. The agreements were named after the Belarusian capital where they were signed. Clashes started between Russian-backed separatists and Ukraine military in 2014. To bring peace to this unrest, an agreement was signed between Russia and Ukraine brokered by France and Germany, which came to be known as the Minsk I Agreement. This was unsuccessful due to the violations by both the sides. Later in 2015, Minsk II was signed, which devised a 13-point formula which included an immediate ceasefire and also the exchange of prisoners. After this, the worst of the fighting stopped gradually. However, this agreement too was not successful because Both sides interpret the text in different ways, and this has been dubbed by some observers as Minsk conundrum, whereby Ukraine considers this agreement as an opportunity to regain its control over the rebel regions, whereas Russia wants Ukraine to grant these rebel areas an autonomy and complete independence. Also, Russia does not consider itself to be a party to these agreements and thus is not bound by its rules. So these two regions, Donetsk and Luhansk, were the rebel regions. Current scenario. Stating the reason as to end the Nazi forces in Ukraine, Russia invaded Ukraine and also its neighboring country and partner Belarus is helping Russia in this. Russia wants Ukraine to surrender to its will and end the thought of either joining NATO or EU. Ukraine has stood strong against the Russian attacks, with even the commoners taking the arms into their hands. Russia formally recognized the independence of two separatist regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. The troops are advancing towards the capital city of Kiev from all the sides as of now. Major cities in Ukraine like Kharkiv, Odessa, Sumy are witnessing huge shelling and intense fighting between both the armies. Russia is slowly occupying major infrastructural facilities in Ukraine. It has already occupied the Chernobyl nuclear reactor, causing fears among the Western powers about a nuclear accident or a possible nuclear attack. Many historical monuments in Ukraine, like the Slovo building, Domitian Cathedral, etc., are getting damaged due to the heavy shelling by Russia. How far have Russian troops advanced? So here you can see Belarus, Russia and Ukraine with its capital city Kiev right at the middle. And the areas shown here are the ones where the Russian military has taken control. What's the West doing? All the major countries like the US, UK, Germany, France have imposed heavy sanctions on Russia. However, none of these countries sent its military to Ukraine. The support from the Western countries has been restricted to providing military as well as humanitarian aid to Ukraine. Also, Ukraine wants the Western countries to announce its airspace as to be no flying zone. But the Western countries are not in favor of this because this will pull the NATO directly into this conflict, thereby leading to a full-fledged war. So what are these sanctions? For the Russia's act of invasion on Ukraine, the Western countries have imposed sanctions. Few of them are banning the imports of oil and gas from Russia by the US and the UK and switching to cleaner forms of energy. So these countries have vowed to switch to cleaner forms of energy and reduce their dependence on Russia. Germany has halted the clearance for Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline, freezing the assets of Russian billionaires, including the Russian foreign minister as well as Vladimir Putin, banning the Russian flights from the US, UK, EU and Canadian airspace, ban on transactions with Russian central bank, ban on dealings with Russian individuals and businesses, banning of Russian ships from their ports by the UK and New Zealand, cutting off few Russian banks from the International Payment Gateway, that is SWIFT, which stands for the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. SWIFT is an international payment gateway which is used by the financial institutions for sharing of the information regarding financial transactions. Russia is also dependent on the SWIFT platform for its payments of oil and gas exports. Position of India. Russia has always been an all-weather friend of India. Russia has many times vetoed the resolutions which were introduced against India in the Kashmir issue. Thus, Indian diplomacy is facing one of its greatest dilemmas in the current scenario. So far, India has abstained from voting against Russia in the UN Security Council and UN General Assembly. Also, India has not condemned Russia's actions till now. Impact on India. So, how is this Russia Ukraine conflict affecting India? The very first challenge of India began with bringing our students who got stranded in Ukraine due to the war. India launched Operation Ganga to evacuate our students who got stranded there and successfully brought back all of them, barring a few very unfortunate incidents. Since Russia and Ukraine are one of the largest exporters of oil and gas, the price of crude oil is going to hugely rise. In the last week, the price has soared to almost $140 a barrel. Due to the Western sanctions, the trade with Russia might get affected. Also, Russia and Ukraine are the major suppliers of agri-produce. The prices of sunflower oil in the country might increase hugely. Russia is the second largest producer of potash, a fertilizer critical in the agriculture. Its prices might get skyrocketed. The Russian market is crucial for Indian tea exports and this might take a hit with the ongoing sanctions. So what's next? Peace talks have already begun between Russia and Ukraine to bring a conclusion to the war. Ukraine has softened its stand on joining NATO, one of the key concerns of Russia. The talks have helped in setting up of humanitarian corridors, thereby allowing the civilians to leave the cities and the halting of firing for a fixed period of time. However, a solution has not yet been reached by either of the two sides. The war is still going on and claiming the lives of military personnel as well as civilians. As per an estimate, more than 2.8 million people have fled Ukraine since the Russian invasion began. One can only hope and pray that these peace talks reach a conclusion as early as possible, thereby ending this war, and no more innocent lives are lost in this conflict. Thank you, and please subscribe to our channel ClearIAS.